Welcome to our special series on women in the marine world. In these podcasts, you will hear from women who are involved with science or the exploration of the ocean, about their experiences and their messages for the future. On this occasion, we have also collected questions from the younger generation and have asked our guests to answer them. And if your curiosity has been piqued, then head onto our website and send us your question. We'll pass them on to the team and get them answered. We hope you enjoy the stories from all of these amazing women doing great things.
Hello, my name is Flora Vincent. I'm French and I'm currently a group leader at the EMBL in Germany. So today I'm a marine microbiologist, meaning that I work on microbes that live in the ocean and that are invisible to the naked eye. And in particular, I try to understand how microbes really interact with each other and how those interactions can affect their survival, but also our ecosystem. I particularly focus on diatoms. These are tiny microbes that can conduct photosynthesis. This means that they can use carbon dioxide, CO2, to produce oxygen. And this oxygen is, of course, super relevant for life in the ocean. Diatoms do produce oxygen in very large amounts every year. So understanding how those interactions will affect diatom survival is really important to make sure that they continue providing us with this amazing capacity to produce oxygen. So I chose to become a scientist mostly thanks to my curiosity for how life works. I felt science was one of the rare places where asking questions, being curious, and having time to think about problems was actually valued. And you get to work with really fantastic people, which is what makes my daily life very, very enjoyable. To get there, I was lucky to have a lot of people around me just telling me to do what I enjoyed the most. So I think mentors have nearly been more influential than role models. Truth is, I didn't have so many women marine biologists around me. But I really think that to have people telling me that I should just follow my gut feeling is what helped me the most. The truth is that I also had people telling me that I should quit science, right? This also happens. Thankfully, not too many. And this is where you need to train the brain to ignore those sentences and just move forward. I think for me, the hardest part of doing science is that really conducting science is about persistence and very long-term thinking. So you have to be very patient. Between an initial idea and the validation of our results, there are years that can happen. And sometimes I just feel like I will never have enough time to explore everything that needs to be explored. I think right now my favorite thing about work is just being with people in my lab, talking about their scientific experiments and their results, seeing them happy and grow as marine microbiologists. And I think today this is what brings me the biggest satisfaction. One of my strongest memories while working in science is a specific night during a bloom chase that we did in the Atlantic Mission, where we managed to locate the right body of water in the middle of the night. And this was really the result of a wonderful collaboration between scientists and parasailers. And I keep a very strong memory of it because we were all very stressed about whether or not we would be able to find the right location to conduct our expedition. And we managed to. So that was very, very satisfying and a lot of intense joy that was shared among all the people on the boat. And if I had to give an advice to a younger version of myself, it would really be to trust my gut feeling, to go for what excites me the most, and also to keep doors open to the unexpected. I think that if we want to attract more women in science, the best way to do it is really to make our scientific workspace more inclusive and more diverse, obviously. And a good way to do that is definitely to, in a sense, stop talking and starting to listen to each other. I think once we leave room for open discussion, for open communication, this will also open up a lot of topics that will make it a safer space for everyone, not only for women. And I think that's really something we need to think about today as scientists in our scientific culture. There is sometimes some topics that we don't dare to talk about. We don't dare to talk about failure. We don't dare to share our doubts. We don't dare to share how many grants we apply to that we don't get. But if we would start sharing all of this, talking more and listening more to each other, sharing those doubts, I'm sure it would make a better workplace for everyone. And I think this is a strong key for more inclusion and more diversity. So Geronimo, 9 years old from Germany, asked how many species of plankton are there. We think we have estimates of around 150,000 species of plankton today. This number changes from year to year, but this is the most recent estimate. So 150,000 species of plankton.
Hi, I am Shamwari. I am from the Dominican Republic, 24 years old. I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, but my dad is from Belgium. So once I finished high school, we moved to Belgium so I could follow my bachelor's in Europe and still be close to family. For my bachelor's, I did environmental sciences in the Netherlands, and that was very land-based. So I felt like I wanted to know more about, the remaining 70% of the planet. So now I am in my last year of the IMBRC Master Program. It's the International Master of Science in Marine Biological Resources. Right now, what I am is a student in Portugal right now, writing my thesis. It's going to be about seagrass restoration in the Ria Formosa in Faro. I feel my thesis research is important to the world around us because seagrasses are at the very basis of life on Earth. They help with regulating climatic effects, for example, with increasing storms. They help dampen wave energy. They are also very important for carbon sequestration and help maintain carbon levels in the atmosphere at a reasonable level. So protecting this species and this habitat is very critical for the world around us. So I chose to become a scientist because I've always been drawn to nature. Growing up in the Dominican Republic, I was very in tune with my environment, and I also have to thank my parents for that, because from a very young age, they always taught me to take care of the environment, respect it, and they showed me all that it has to offer. So from a very young age, I already knew that I wanted my future to be related to nature and natural sciences. I think the hardest part about becoming a scientist or being a student in science right now, coming from the Dominican Republic, was getting into university was a bit more difficult than, for example, people in Europe, because it was a bit harder to get used to the whole culture, the whole academia aspect of everything. But luckily, my colleagues, my peers were very accepting, and I've always been part of a very big international community. I went to an international high school. My bachelor's was an international program, and now my master's as well. So I feel like even though at first it might be a bit out of your comfort zone to be in touch with so many people from different walks of life, it also teaches you to be open and sensitive and empathetic to others and their perspectives. My favorite thing about my studies in marine sciences is definitely when I get to go on field trips and do field work outside, explore so many different areas, and also the balance between field work and lab, because it's not all fun and games. You also have to know how to analyze whatever you collect in the field, and it's been great to have both outside fieldwork experience and then the more serious science in the lab. If I had to give advice to a younger version of myself, it would be to definitely remain calm. Things that you think are very big problems and you think it's not going to work out, just take a breather. It all works out. You are right where you're supposed to be at this moment, and you're really happy right now. This question is from Ida, who's 8 years old from Germany, and they ask, what is it like down there when you dive? Diving is probably my favorite activity in the whole world. You feel like you are in a 3D environment, basically. Everything is 3D. You can fly, but only that you're swimming. You can go anywhere. You feel weightless, and it shows you how big the world is and how many things it has to offer. You get to see a lot of animals and plants. It's a really cool experience. I feel like everyone should learn how to dive.
Hello, I'm Elisa Rovagnan. I'm Chief Scientist at the Norwegian Research Center, NORCE in short. I'm originally from Italy, actually from Venice, where I studied both my master and my PhD. So I'm quite far away from home, but things that are in common between Venice and Bergen, where I'm based now, is definitely to have the ocean in front of our windows when we work. So this has been a leitmotif in all my studies and all my work. I'm an environmental scientist with broad background on environment in general, from, of course, the classical biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, up to economy and national international law. So this helped me to put together the answers that different disciplines provide about the environmental challenges and try to summarize them and to have a more holistic view of what is the situation and what we should do to solve them. I became a scientist because I'm curious. I think this is something that all the scientists will say. Curiosity is absolutely something that is needed. Actually, I have to confess that before environment, another passion was animals and still is. So I wanted to be a veterinary. But then I broadened my horizons and say, yeah, well, of course, animal is important, but also where they live is important. So this brought me to have this more broad approach to environment. And the ocean, the sea, as I say, living in Venice or near Venice, this is a connection that is unbreakable. It's there, it's part of your life. But it was also a mystery. So while you can see the things that are on the terrain and you see the things that are in the forest, the ocean is even more mysterious because you see, but not so much under the surface of the water. And this, in a way, seems to be a childish dream, but is pushing you to study and to understand better what there is there, how it works. And you're mesmerized about the colors, about the animals, about the forms, and how it works. So this has been definitely my push. And I have to say that my background, as I say, I'm an environmental scientist, but I specialize more in data analysis and modeling. And again, is sort of this component of magic that with numbers you were able to reproduce an environment, or reproduce how the relationship, reproduce how it was working, like modeling some waves or modeling the trophic chain. This has been really very fascinating, and I have to thank my tutor both for master and PhD, Alberto Tomasin. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, but he has been really very an inspiration, and he still had until the last moment of his life this curiosity about what is going on and how we can understand better before even touch it. So this has been really very a great inspiration. As a modeler, I was in front of the computer a lot, but also I have the opportunity to go out and do some sampling, especially in the Lagoon of Venice. Alle Bocche di Porto means where the lagoon is touching the Adriatic Sea. We were following the tides. We were going out night, day, depending. So we didn't have office time, but we were following nature. And I think I've seen the most fantastic sunset and sunrise during that period. And it was wonderful also to work with my colleagues in Venice, because at the end, the group was so used to work together that sometimes we didn't even talk. We were just, helping each other, passing each other things, seeing when someone maybe was a little bit late and helping them to speed up, because of course we had a lot of things to do. So this is one of my best memories of that period. In this moment, of course, my job is slightly different because I'm coordinating on a European project. I'm also writing a lot of proposals. I help also write and have work for colleagues in my group and my department. So it's a little bit less practical, but still has this halo of magic about the environment. And I think ocean is really very important to understand. It's maybe perceived as distant for people, especially people not living on the coast. But at the same time, it's so important for all of us in general, for everything, both the terrestrial ecosystems and the whole population of the world, that we need to insist more to make people understand how it works, how is important, how is fragile, but also how much it can give us if used in a proper way, in a sustainable way. In this moment, I'm working a lot with sustainable aquaculture, so how to grow food from the ocean that can feed an increasing population, but at the same time without ruining the environment that is first is where the food is growing, but at the same time it's important to preserve for itself because it has a value on itself, but also for the future generation. A message for the future is that, yes, as a woman, of course, I've been lucky. Italy, there is a little bit of discrimination against women, but I would say from when I started, maybe because there were less women doing mathematical things, so there were more biologists, let's say, but now I can see the numbers are more or less equal. And living in Norway, of course, call it likestilling. It means equality between women and men. So even if, of course, there is not the perfect 100% success, still I consider myself a privileged because I don't feel discriminated because of my sex. We have a lot of our leaders are female. But at the same time, what I see is still in the general culture that women should do more biology. So they are not encouraged, for example, mathematics, physics, even technology, sensors and all that part, so mechanics. And so this is not discriminating in a direct way, but in an indirect way. So giving less possibilities. And this shouldn't be. So this is really very important to help the youngest generation from elementary school up to understand that they can do whatever they want. Everything is open for them. In the moment they are curious, in the moment they are interested, in the moment that they want to do something, because the job of a researcher is not only because we are curious, but also because we want to give back to the society what we learn through our finding and making things better for as much as we can. When they have this passion, they should follow no matter what and no matter which direction they want to go. This is even more now that in the project I'm leading, Astral, we are working with the areas that are a little bit difficult, especially on the social part, Africa, South America, where discrimination is more deep in the culture and also economically. Definitely, you can see it very, very clearly. So it's one of the points also of the project, we call it empower women in aquaculture, for example, to show what they can do. They can do all the jobs that are needed and they can be autonomous also economically to build their future. So it is important to have education, general education, so ocean literacy, but also practical education on some skills that they can sell to find a proper job. So the question of Arsen, 10 years old from Germany, is how does plastic end inside the fish? It's a very good question. We have to say that we are still doing a lot of research to be sure before saying something like that. Definitely through ingestions. So fish and also other animals. So it's all the animals in the sea that are actively eating, but also the one that just filter the water. Small piece of plastic, so we don't have to think about the full bottle, but when those are breaking down, sometimes as a microplastic, so piece of plastic you can see only through a microscope, you cannot see with your own eyes. Those particles are entering the body of the animals, fish or others, through the water or through eating. They mistake them for food and they ingest them. So definitely in the digestive system, they have found a lot of plastic in some areas because of these passive or active ingestions. If this microplastic then is found also in the flesh, so in the part that we eat, there's still research going on and depends on the size of the particles. But yeah, unfortunately, sometimes fish are tricked in thinking that it's food instead it's plastic. We have another question from Noémie, aged 11 from France. How does it feel to be in a team where it's mostly boys? Yeah. It's true. Actually, it happens quite a lot, especially when you choose to be a modeler or a data analyst. And when you work in projects where physics and mathematics and technology are high, then you end up to be one of the few women in the room, or even the only one. Also with aquaculture, because it's a male-dominated industry. Well, at the beginning, you are feeling a little bit alone, but at the same time, you are there to do your job, to talk about science. Science doesn't have a gender. You are there to talk about your passion. You are talking about the results of your projects, of your work, and this is the only thing that matters. I think sometimes women and men express themselves in a different way, use different words, use different way of maybe also write the results, to present the results. And I think it's really very nice to see this difference. And at the end, everybody is enriched when we have this aspect. So you don't have ever to be intimidated to be the only girl in a room, because you are there to talk about your results and your science. And you are there because you know and you do a good job. And that's the only thing that matters.
We hope that you've enjoyed today's episode and look forward to seeing you next time. You can follow the Atlantico project on our website on www.atlantico.eu. And you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. All the links and information on the project and on today's episode is in the show notes. Atlantico is a project funded under Horizon 2020, a European Union research and innovation programme.